On November 19, 2020, Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted of murder charges stemming from one of those infamous riots in August of that year. He spoke at a Turning Point USA, that is TPUSA, chapter event. Turning Point is a registered student organization of the University of Memphis. The subject of his speech was the importance of the Second Amendment and, quote, the lies, L-I-E-S, of Black Lives Matter, unquote. Hi, I'm Ben Harrison, but known as Bink for my stories, Memphis Picks News, and other work. I was given a press pass to cover his speech. I thought I maybe could actually do a personal interview with Kyle in search of the texture and tone of the man. I had never even heard his voice before. However, I knew that would have been impossible, so I imagined sitting in a reserved seat for media actually listening to his remarks. It didn't quite work out that way. This is my personal interpretation of that event after a week has elapsed. But when I arrived, I learned that press passes had been canceled and all tickets had to be reissued. Media, as far as I know, were not allowed in to cover his comments from the room. But one TV station did get in, judging by the coverage on their channels. To be fair to the U of M, the whole thing could have turned into a bloody mess, as well as the worst headlines for this large urban school in a deep blue city. If the protest just outside the building indicated anything, students and BLM members aimed to disrupt the Rittenhouse talk inside the University Center. Some acted and said as much. The flow of comments about the Rittenhouse talk ranged from intolerable to creatively critical, like this one.
With racial relations, so it felt very antagonistic to me. He does have a right as an American to be here and to speak, but we have a right to be here and to make offensive signs and shout offensive things the way I kind of feel like he might have done at the BLM. I don't know what he did at the BLM. I know he went out.
The event drew about 200 to 300 activists. This was made up mostly of students in full-bloom spring protests. Many people, students or not, were wearing BLM shirts, one or two covering for the student newspaper, another couple doing a class project, and a few curious, just watching. There were plenty of visible local police. Add to that a half dozen media companies, with usually no more than 2 per team. By the way, I'm usually critical of local media for bending too far left on these kinds of stories. But in this case, they actually went out of their way to interview anyone standing outside of the protest drift. The media grouped around this man's comments that were unusual
on the ground,
in this crowd.
Getting beaten with a skateboard. And so he defended himself.
News 3 captured another freethinker not from the hive. I'm wondering if this one is a student's mom infiltrating from the burbs. What a radical concept. She wants to hear what he has to say.
There's a lot of misinformation, and so I'm just curious to hear from him exactly, what he's been through and what he has to say.
From a messaging perspective, the university served the protesters by keeping the media out of the actual speech. Without getting to cover his speech, there is little chance their stories could be balanced for the average viewer.
Having this guy come here spread racist.
First, the sax player calls him racist. None of the reporters ask exactly what makes Kyle Rittenhouse a racist.
And also talking about how we need more guns on the street.
Second, he says Kyle Rittenhouse is saying we need more guns on the street. Now, there are those who say more legal guns on the street actually would reduce crime.
Also, this guy had a military-grade AR rifle.
Third, saxophone man says Rittenhouse had a military grade, actually more of an AR-styled rifle.
AR rifle a couple years ago, and it provoked people and put them in fight or flight mode because who wouldn't be afraid of a huge gun like bigger than this?
That provoked people. It put people in a fight or flight mode because, quote, who wouldn't be afraid of a huge gun, unquote, as big as his sax. It all sounds Freudian to me.
And so, and he was underage. We were talking about this earlier. He was underage when he got it, and it's like, how do you get this gun?
Fourth, saxophone man says Rittenhouse was underage when he got his gun. So how could he purchase it? Here's how, and it's a little confusing. He did not buy it himself. A man pleaded guilty for buying Rittenhouse the gun and agreed to pay a $2,000 fine. The judge dismissed the gun possession charge against Rittenhouse because Rittenhouse's gun was longer than 16 inches. Why does that matter? Shorter barreled guns are illegal in Wisconsin, and minors are allowed to have long-barreled guns. Experts say the law is murky, but they all agreed the judge's call was correct.
And he drove 15 hours to a state he doesn't even...
Fifth, saxophone man says Rittenhouse drove 15 hours to a state he doesn't even live in to obtain a gun. Not illegal.
To a state he doesn't even live in, just to go murder people.
Sixth, saxophone man says Rittenhouse drove to a state he doesn't even live in just to go murder people, unquote. He ignores, like almost all of the protesters that evening, that Rittenhouse actually was attacked, fired in self-defense, and was found not guilty of 5 felony charges after a jury deliberated 3.5 days.
So, we hate him. Well, I hate him. I can't speak for
We
them.
hate him.
Okay, we hate him.
Yeah.
So you guys are planning to go in there tonight, and what are you hoping to accomplish when you go in there?
We just want to annoy them because we feel annoyed and we feel bothered, and we just kind of want to give them a taste of their own medicine, even if we're silenced immediately. I feel like it'd be just disrespect towards their way just because they're not respecting us.
Again, we have triggering of the group. I heard this comment during my footage review. They are not respecting us? I wanted someone to ask, just how? One individual exercising First Amendment rights disrespects you? Again, none of the people outside had even heard Rittenhouse speak, and you want to disrupt his right to speak? So, RK's very presence amounts to disrespect. Perhaps the university should have set up a safe room out there, in addition to limiting the media from coverage.
But we're here for a purpose. We're here for a reason. This shouldn't be allowed.
Thank you so much. Can I get a picture of you? Yeah. Awesome. Hey.
At sunset, the crowd convened at the center of the campus to hear praise heaped upon them for administering group censorship. This was occurring literally as Rittenhouse was trying to speak.
Me personally, I don't find this to be very academic, but but we just wanted to give you guys the platform to be able to come out and represent for what you believe in and what you stand for, and showcase that even though we have differing opinions and we have differing beliefs, just because they're allowed to do something, we're allowed to do something as well.
But, quote-unquote, doing something obviously has different meanings to the two different sides in this issue. To the crowd outside of the room where Rittenhouse was speaking, the idea of doing something was to disrupt or shut down the TPUSA Rittenhouse speech altogether. They succeeded. The TPUSA's idea of doing something was to sponsor a speech by Kyle Rittenhouse and then give people access to dialogue directly with him. We'll see how that worked out in a moment. Therefore, by their own authority, the demonstrators initiated their own censorship policy against other people and even against themselves to hear and engage the speaker.
Okay? And so today I did want to bring some encouragement, some motivation. And so we have Mr. Deloche here, who is a pastor. He wants to come and speak to you all. He comes from a background of being a civil rights activist.
And we know that within our country, that is the reason why he is able to go on these speaking tours. There's nothing about Turning Point. It has everything to do with white supremacy, and I believe that.
At this point, I admit I was left wondering if anyone there found the connection to white supremacy perplexing. Rittenhouse, a white man, was found not guilty of shooting 3 white people. But let's continue. This litany of alleged racism to concepts and policies in public policy, as seen by a conservative, shows how anyone who dares address those things risks being called a racist.
To get it to become a federal holiday. Now he has an approval rating near 96 to 98%. How is that possible, Vince? It's one of the most popular people. He's as real as Aslan from Chronicles of Narnia or Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. Only something fake and fictitious could get a 96% approval rating.
So you could see that Charlie Kirk is racist. So let's see Rittenhouse's response to the person who asked a question about Charlie Kirk's racism. Take a look.
Okay, I'll answer the question of racist things he said. He says we shouldn't celebrate Juneteenth. We shouldn't celebrate Martin Luther King Day. We should be working those days. It's called Ketanji Brown Jackson, an affirmative action hire. He's talked nonsense about George Floyd. And he said he'd be scared if a black pilot was on a plane. Does that not seem racist?
I don't know anything about that.
Then answer no. Does that seem racist? Is a yes or no question, Kyle?
After all the things I just told you, would you consider that hate speech?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Deflection! Yeah!
Just to show the breadth of podcast angles to the Rittenhouse story, here's how the New York Post handled it.
First aid to demonstrators. I was helping people who were peacefully protesting. It's on video. I honestly don't know anything about BLM, and I don't care.
If you don't know anything about BLM, why did you cross state lines?
So I was asked to be there to help protect the property, and I said, okay, I'll go down there and I'll provide first aid, and if I protect the property is not worth a human life. Can we all agree on that? Yes. So I brought that rifle. I was protecting the car stores, and by protect, I mean I was putting out fires that were being started. Can we all agree?
With a rifle?
Well, it was a political trial. I was put on trial because we were during an election cycle. They used me as their scapegoat.
Who?
That is what happened. That is why they put me on trial. It was all politics. And this is a case that has nothing to do with politics.
Deflection! Yeah! But, yeah!
Okay, the event is over. Can everyone please exit through the...
Yeah!
So the U of M TPUSA chapter event unceremoniously ended in a speech that most of the crowd didn't want, nor did they want anyone else to hear anyway. But of course it would not end there. At that point, getting Rittenhouse off campus from rampaging members of the crowd was to become the prime objective. What follows is TPUSA video.
Stay down, Agent Smith.
Look at shit. Look, what is that? That's an ape.
See me?
Oh my god.
I'm standing over you. It's okay.
Hey, look, I'm spitting on you.
Oh my god, that girl just spit.
This is wild. Keep going, Tanner. Don't stop. Back the fuck up. We're not even written in this.
Oh my god, they can see me. Tanner, can they see me?
No, just stay down now.
Good, stay down.
Come on, Tanner. Hey, let me record. You drive. Yeah. That's the chief of police right there. Where? Memphis. Which way do I go? Go straight, go right, go this.
Oh my god.
Go.
Get down, get down, get down.
Hey,
This is
gas it.
neutral.
As soon as he moves, gas it. I gotta go straight. You know, gas it. Gas it.